Welcome back to the Thought Leaders podcast. Today, I'm with a thought leader in the leadership and mindset space. Josi, welcome to the show. Tell me a little bit about what does being a good leader mean to you?
Thank you so much, Isabella, first of all, for having me. I'm super stoked to be here and to talk about all of this. So, yes, what does a good leader mean to me? I think a good leader is always a leader who's self-aware. That's one of the most important things, because the better you can control yourself, your emotions, and the better you understand yourself, the better you can show up for others as well. And I have had my fair share in my previous corporate space or time where I had really bad leaders, but I also had really great leaders. And those were the ones who could truly listen. So listening skills are definitely something, and who really tuned into who I am as a person. And they also encouraged me to be myself because they could be themselves as well. So I feel like authenticity and really being self-aware, knowing themselves, is literally the number one leadership skill that every good leader has.
And you started kind of going into it a bit, but I think more people have experiences with bad leadership. What was that like for you? What did a bad leadership experience teach you now about what you do?
Oh, so much. I think one of the funniest moments was when a leader really tried, like my direct manager, so she tried to really suppress my personality. So there was a funny moment, for example, where she took me to the side and was like, Josie, you really cannot put emojis into your emails. That is so unprofessional. You can never do that. And she was really like pushing me to not do that. But I was like, well, it's just an emoji. It's not that bad. And it kind of like expressed my personality and just how I was talking to others. And no one else has ever like said anything. So that was just like an interesting example. And I felt in who I am, I felt invalidated. So something that is really important for me also in my work in leadership and mindset coaching with clients who are CEOs or they are business owners as well, to really learn how to not invalidate someone else and to embrace actually their authenticity, because we are all human beings, right? We are not robots. So it's so important to understand those nuances and to actually embrace them rather than trying to suppress them and make them feel like they are wrong and to make them feel like they're not seen. Because if you want to be like thriving in a workplace, you want to be happy, and you don't want to be like, okay, I'm just like in this little box. I cannot express my opinions. I cannot like, express who I am or what I like. I cannot put an emoji in my email. Like, what is this? It's maybe something small, but if these things add up, that can make your whole work experience like miserable, really, really miserable.
How did you react to that moment? Or like, how did you then proceed in that role with someone who was telling you basically don't be yourself?
So for me, I'm literally a rebel. So I kept putting emojis into my email because I was like, no, that's not me. So I was very resistant to that suppression. And I just didn't like it. I did speak up and I was like, but it doesn't make sense to me. Like, why should I? I'm fine to maybe not send emojis to the CFO. Okay, cool. I get that. But others, that should be fine. Or she also mentioned, for example, to not say hi in your email, be like really, really formal. But I was like, that's not me. I still want to embrace my own style. So I kept on doing that and I kind of rebelled against that. And afterwards, it was never a topic again. So that's the interesting thing. No one ever again said something about it. And I just kept on doing my thing. And the funny thing is also later on, there was like an internal kind of like article in that company published about me. And the tagline said, she's going the unusual route. And I was like, that describes it perfectly. So that was basically the mindset I had even after that moment, to just going the unusual route, going my way, and still just embracing my authenticity, because I just can't stand it, in short, to not be that. Like, I like being all the different things.
And I can tell that there's someone listening who is saying, "Oh, I've been through something similar, but I could never be so courageous." Or they're
Mm.
thinking they're really afraid to stand up for themselves and say, "No, this is who I am," or what's a, asking for a middle ground. What would you say to that person? How would you coach that person to maybe see the situation differently?
So a question I would definitely ask would be around what is most important to you? How does it make you feel? To also just gauge, okay, does it make you feel really, really icky? For example, like it made me feel? Or is it something where like, actually, I don't care? Because if they don't care, well, then it's fine. Like, just do your thing. You can play the game if that's what you want and that's kind of like aligned with you. But also in asking them what their values are, I can tell what is really, really important to them. And if then they say authenticity is important, or freedom is important, or really expressing and standing up for myself is important, or I want to learn to trust myself is more important, then they have to learn to step outside of the comfort zone and to speak up to that. And it will always be scary at first. It always will take courage because it's something they are not used to doing, right? So how I would coach them through that would literally be, okay, how can we ease you into you speaking up? Can we maybe practice in a different kind of setting so you experience the exact scenario? It might not be the one where you really speak up to your manager and say, this is not what I want to be treated differently. But maybe it's in a different space where you can just show up as you are, so you can really learn to trust yourself and know that you actually can do this. Because you can only like tell your brain as much as you want, okay, I'm authentic, I'm trusting myself, I'm speaking up, I can do this, I can do this. But if you don't actually do it, your brain will be like, well, where's the proof? So far, we only have proof that you can't do it. So there needs to be like a mix, also in like the coaching space, between like shifting that kind of like mindset, that like thought pattern, and to combine that with action taking, so that your brain literally has the actual visible proof, like a pen. Okay, cool, yeah, this is actually possible. And then it saves that, stores that, and has like a new kind of like neural pathway, right? That it can go down. It's like, this is now an option. And the more you do it, the easier it will get as well.
You talk about self-trust a lot in your work, and it's one of kind of your central themes. And I'm interested in hearing more about this action piece, because I've been in coaching containers before, and I know some of our listeners have too, that are really focused on journaling, that are really focused on reframing. Some of us have experience with, cognitive behavioral therapies, and you're really emphasizing that action piece. What does that look like for someone who's just getting started with you?
It can look differently. So for some people, they might be ready to take big action steps. They might be like, okay, cool, I'm gonna quit my job like tomorrow. Others might be, okay, I need maybe something smaller. Maybe it's more around like a habit change. But even then, the sooner you get into action and get into learning by doing, the faster you will actually make progress. It's really about these teeny tiny baby steps that you take along the journey. Sometimes it takes a big step, a big jump to break through that ceiling, to see that transformation, or to really reach your goal. But it can also be just the accumulation of taking all of these baby steps. So if someone starts and I maybe see a lot of fear or resistance to taking a big step, then cool, then let's start small. Let's start something with that's super easy. So if you have, for example, the topic of, I want to speak up more in meetings or show up more on live on Instagram, okay, let's find maybe something where you can practice it a little bit, that makes you maybe feel a little bit scared, but not too scared. So just like get out of that comfort zone, but not into like, so that you're in the stretch zone, right? But not get into the panic zone where you just like freeze and procrastinate and don't want to do it at all. So we really want to nudge you. And that's the important part in the coaching piece, to me, showing you that you can step out, you can take that little step. And as soon as you did that, it's also time to celebrate. That's the really important part as well, that you celebrate that you did it, even if it was just maybe 2 minutes of going live and no one came, and you were like, oh my gosh, no one came. That's so good. And they just get out of the live again. You're like, cool, it's done. but you did it, you showed up. And maybe it was the first time and it was scary. That's cool. That's all self-awareness and good to know. The next time you will be like, okay, I can do it maybe longer. Maybe I can say something more. Maybe there was actually someone coming in. I can talk with them. And celebrating every time you show up in any way possible is so important to build that self-trust. And again, to reinforce also to your brain that you can do it and that you also own that you did it. Because it can be also very easy to just say like, okay, done next. But then when you never look back, you're like, what did I actually do? Like, am I actually capable? Can I really do that? But by celebrating that, you really take the time and you're present with the activity that you can do it.
I know that there's a common phrase of fake it till you make it. And you're encouraging people to take steps that maybe would not come naturally to them. Are you someone who subscribes to that phrase of fake it till you make it? Or is it a different practice for you?
It's a different practice for me. I don't really agree with fake it till you make it, because I actually think that just reinforces imposter syndrome. We don't want you to feel like a fake or an imposter. We want you to feel like the real you, like your best self, that you, as you are right now, can do it, and that you do not have to take on any fake personality or whatever it is to make it happen. So that's really a key focus of mine also in coaching, to be like, you have everything that you need to make this happen. We just got to build on the self-trust. And by taking these little steps and getting outside of your comfort zone, you will build that. And you do not need to fake anything to make that happen. That's what I believe.
The piece about imposter syndrome, it's so interesting how, going back to your experience with leaders, good and bad, how that imposter syndrome can be driven from a place of don't be yourself. And then so you're kind of left with, then who am I? Like, who do I be? Is that something that clients are coming to you with?
Oh, yes. I have loads of clients who really come in and they question what is actually like my authentic leadership style. Like, what does it mean to be authentic as a leader? How do I do that? And I'm then asking, well, how do you want to do it? Like, how do you want to be? How do you feel happy? How are you getting into like this peak experience, into flow? Like, what lights you up in who you are, and what makes you you? Like, how can you embrace that and also get to know your strengths, get to know your weaknesses, and use them to your advantage? So it's really about the client and what they actually truly want and who they truly are, to really bring that out in them and let go of that like fake personality.
What if the person just keeps saying like, I don't know. I don't know what I want to show up as. Like, they're kind of in that self-doubt mode. How do you begin to just take that first step?
Sometimes what I like to do is to turn it around and just ask, okay, how do you not want to be? Like, what do you hate? What is horrible? Or what did you maybe see also in others that you absolutely despise, like you cannot stand? Because then we have some starting point, and that's sometimes also easier because we have like this negativity bias, right? People are so quick to list negative things. So we have like a list of things where we can work with and then be like, okay, let's turn it around. What would be the opposite of that? So how do you want to be? Is this already like a strength of yours? Is this something you maybe want to improve? And this way we can really tap into their qualities and their strengths, and maybe also improvement areas, to find their authentic leadership style.
Are you typically working with people who want to become better leaders because they're growing a team, or is it in a different context?
Different contexts, plural. I had some clients who were starting to grow a team, so they were completely new to the space and they wanted to know, like, how do I actually do this? Like, this is scary. I don't know. How can I actually deal with my employees? How do I lead a team? How do I show up? So that's definitely one part. Another one was more around, I don't want to feel fake when I show up. I want to be authentic. I want to really tap into my feminine wisdom, for example. That's a very common theme. And another one is just to be literally happy and fulfilled in their role, but also maybe as a business owner and how they show up and how they lead their business and also how they lead themselves. So it was more around this piece of inner alignment and inner peace, that they know they can trust themselves, they're doing the right thing, and it doesn't feel icky or something like that. Like they're happy with who they are, basically.
Something you just touched on with like the feminine wisdom part. Where do you see that people are disconnected to that piece of themselves?
Everywhere. I think the most common part is because this whole area, like this whole space right now, is full with masculine energy. It is about being productive, about structure, about working hard, about working more all the time. I mean, literally the school system, right now is still built that way, that we are trained that we can go into the workspace and work and nothing else. This is really like, we are almost brainwashed. I don't want to necessarily want that use that term, but we're kind of like brainwashed to be in this masculine kind of like energy, to work, follow rules, follow guidelines, do not venture out, do not do anything creative. So this is really the biggest part where I see like it's missing. And it's so valuable to actually tap into your inner feminine wisdom, to tap into creativity, to tap into flow, to acknowledge rest as well, because rest can be so productive. It can be creative because you come up with new ideas. It gives you new inspiration. But if you only have like this masculine kind of like structure and work hard, you might miss out on all of these things. Equally, if you're only in the feminine space, you might be completely flowy and maybe don't do anything, right? So there needs to be a balance. And if you find that sweet spot, that balance, that's when you really have like traction, and you can build a momentum as well.
And is this something that you're mainly coaching women on, or how can men start to tap into that feminine side or that flow as well?
I think it's actually the same for everyone. It's not feminine wisdom. Obviously, it's like a female word, but masculine is a male word, you could say, but it's got nothing to do whether you're a woman or a man, that you can tap into it more or less. It's got a lot to do with your upbringing and how you've been raised, like kind of like the beliefs that you have and the thought patterns. But in learning to tap into it, I do think it's the exact same for everybody. So it would be really about, okay, how can you embrace maybe more rest? How can you embrace more creativity? How can you tap into your intuition and really maybe trust your instinct a bit more? How can you allow maybe more flow and flexibility, or maybe even like playfulness and joy back into your life? And those questions, they are the same for men and women.
Something you said before was about the masculine side, or this like very work heavy energy being about more and being about doing more, being more productive. But something that's really important to you is life work balance and being able to tap into that. What are some ways that you practice this on a regular basis?
So for me, life work balance means life comes first. So that's something I personally have learned because I burnt out in my corporate role. And it also has influenced my decision actually to be an entrepreneur, because I wanted to be able to really live first and then work comes second. So one of my key practices is literally scheduling life first as well. So if I look at my calendar, and if it would be completely wiped empty, I would be like, okay, first, let's schedule when I go to the gym. Exercise, super, super important for me. It's a key habit. It's actually a keystone habit because it has like so much influence on other areas in your life as well. I also look into, okay, I want this time in the morning always to be free because I want to have breakfast with my boyfriend and I want to spend that quality time. Or in the evening, it's literally 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock. We are done. Like, yes, of course, there will be days I might need to work longer. I might have a client that texts me later on when it's really urgent. That's fine. But to not make that your, how do you say, like your routine, that you every day work longer than you should, or that you work every weekend. Sometimes fine, totally okay. There's nothing wrong with that. All the time, you might want to look at how your energy is faring. And then also what I really love doing, just to cool down and just have some fun, right? You know, like fun, joyfulness, playfulness, because I am a nerd. I just love video games. I've really got into that. I think it's due to my boyfriend, because he made me play Final Fantasy, and I absolutely loved it. And then afterwards he was like, okay, you played Final Fantasy, now you play Hogwarts Legacy. And I'm like, yes, I want to play Hogwarts Legacy. And I'm loving it. And for me, it's really a great way to just calm down and really switch off my brain from work and everything that's been going on with clients or whatever, and to just go somewhere completely different, yet still have like some form of stimulus. Or reading, meditating, obviously, are some go-to things. Cuddling my cats. All the good stuff.
I saw your cat come in the background.
Yeah.
That's so fun. And I think that it's so important. And I still know that there's someone there saying, but if I do that, if I schedule life first, if I take time to play video games and be with my partner and really live, that means that my work will have to suffer. And how do you, I'm sure that's come up with clients, how do you start to explore that belief with them?
So that part is all about priorities too, to make really clear, okay, what is truly important also in your work. And one of my absolute favorite tools is the time management matrix, the 4Ds of time management, which is delete, delegate, do, and delay. So this is one of the easiest tools that I like using with my clients, to just figure out, okay, what is actually really important and urgent that you need to do? These are the things you obviously do. Again, I said that maybe if you do have something that you need to work longer on, you do that. Maybe there's something that is important, but not right now. So you can do it later. You don't need to do everything at the same time. You don't need to have a 100 items long to-do list and work through everything in one day, right? You can do some things later. It doesn't need to be all done in one day. I actually sometimes even challenge my clients to just do one thing or 3 things a day, to really focus in, do one thing after the next. But then obviously also delete is the best one, because you just strike some off and be like, okay, maybe I do not need to clean my windows exactly today. I can do that maybe another day. Maybe I do not need to talk to this person today. Maybe I do not need to have another coffee chat to do more networking today. Maybe I just leave that and do it another time, because these other things are actually something I need to do. And then the other part was, what was it? Do, delay, delete, delegate. Yeah, delegate is obviously also something that is important, but that you don't have to do. So especially if you're a leader, this is great, because this gives your team a chance to learn and to grow, and you just delegate it to them, and they have something they can do. I do want to say though, unless their plate is way too full, then do be conscious of their time, obviously, too. But delegate can be a great tool to, one, free up your time, or to also maybe get help. For example, like you're obviously a podcast specialist. So if you're a business owner, you don't want to do your podcast yourself, get a specialist to help you. If you want to have some support maybe with calendar management, get a VA to help you. Like, delegate some tasks so you can free up your time. And this way you will not feel as pressured that work might suffer. And you can also choose your work time. If you're really clear on, okay, I want to work 8 hours a day, fine, do that. You can also say, I want to work 4 hours a day, but then make those hours count and really go into what is truly important, what you need to do and what you want to do, and then do that. And don't just burden yourself with a huge to-do list, because you have to do all of these things, because there's always more to do, right? But do you really need to do all of these? That's what I would ask.
Yeah, that's such a great reminder, because I do think there's so much urgency around everything that we do, and there's so much emphasis on more, and really focusing back in on doing what is important.
Mm-hmm.
And I know something that was very important to you and is very important to you is a book,
Yeah.
and self-publishing your book. Can you tell me about that journey? What really started you on wanting to write your own book?
Yeah, you can actually see it in the background here, and I have it here too. So, writing a book has literally always been a dream of mine. I think it started literally in childhood when I was like 6 or 7. So as soon as I started to learn to read, I wanted to write my own book. And for the first time, like for the first couple of years, it died down because there was so much judgment. It was always like, you can't write a book. Like, you're too young. Like, what do you think that you can write a book? Like, no, nah, you can't do that. So I was like, okay, well, then I don't write a book. So it kind of like fizzled out. But then, like, I think 2021, 2022, it came back up again because obviously I started my own business and I had also a bit more time. I started my blog back up and I was like, I love writing. I just love writing. And I really want to write a book. So it just bubbled back to the surface. And I got coached on it myself as well. And my coach was really like, so what is stopping you? Like, you can write a book. Like, you just need a pen and paper and you just start writing. So for me, what was stopping me was really the limiting belief of maybe people think like I'm crazy, or if they read it, they might not like it. So I really had to work through those limiting beliefs. So work with my coach, coached myself as well. Like, I've got journals full with stuff where I was actually just coaching myself through all of these things. And then I finally started writing a book. It was my first idea. Unfortunately, it died down quickly. And I was like, maybe do I need to work through something else? Like, what's going on? But it was more like I fell out of love with the idea. But then the new idea came, and that was the idea, obviously, that's now on paper. Because I was thinking about, okay, what are maybe like the main themes in my life? Something that I'm so passionate about that's just dying to get out of me. And that was really to bridge the gap between your current and your best self, to trust yourself and to do things your way, to really be authentic in what you want to do, to follow your dreams, to follow your passions. And that like dream was so strong that when I started writing, I was actually really quick in writing. I was so surprised because it just kept on coming out. I made my like nice outline. I watched all the videos about self-publishing, how to write your outline and do all of those things. And then when I started writing, I was like, I'm actually faster than I expected. I think I wrote it in like purely like 40 working days. I wrote my book, where I was very, very surprised because I wrote like 1,000 words every single day. So it was a very, very fast process to reach my 50K of words. And then it was done. My first manuscript was done. I was like, oh, I wrote a book. So what's next? And then it's obviously where the self-publishing process started. For me, it was important to self-publish because I wanted to learn the process. I wanted to know what it's like to really see what's going into this. I was just like so curious, like, okay, how do I actually create a book? What goes into this? And oh my gosh, there's so much going into this. And actually the like publishing process that came afterwards was what took up the most time, because I had to first obviously also find an editor who would go over my manuscript. I did have some beta readers who would give like feedback and comments, but then the editor really took it to the next level. But then I had to implement my next edits myself, and I had to learn how to format a book. And gosh, that is so complicated. Like that, because you need to be like so detailed, right? And I can be detailed, but sometimes I'm just like, yeah, that's fine. Like, whatever. So it was really hard for me to really like focus and be like, okay, how can I write this maybe better? Oh, there's a full stop missing. Okay, cool. That's really like the level of detail you need to go into. Then also with the formatting, like to have all the titles the same and stuff. And then to also decide, obviously, the sizing, to create your cover, to find a publishing platform. I was watching so many videos about which platform to go with. In the beginning, I was convinced I would go with Amazon KDP. But then I was like, nah, actually, I want a wider distribution. So draft to digital was the choice I made in the end, which I was happy with. There were some issues in the book release week itself, because I didn't know that they wouldn't release the book on release day for some reason. Like, even though I selected it previously and was like, okay, this is the day the book comes out, they actually take a couple of days to push it out to all of the platforms. And for me, I didn't know that. So that came as a huge shock, because I was just looking at Amazon and was like, my book is not out. It's not published. People cannot order the book. So there is some level of like panic, I guess, that you maybe have to work through when you self-publish, because you do everything yourself, right? Everything relies on you. So it can also be obviously a little bit of a game of like self-blame, like, what did I do wrong? Like, what do I need to do now? Like, what's happening now? So it can be a bit overwhelming, I'm not gonna lie, but I would definitely do it again.
That sounds amazing. And really just such an experience where you got to put into practice everything that you teach clients, and really leading yourself, working on your mindset as you go through this. Can you tell us the name of the book for those who are not watching and can't see it in the background?
Yeah, so the name of the book is And There She Goes Her Way. And I feel like that just describes it perfectly because it's really about taking you from where you are right now to reaching your goals, to be your best self, but to do it your way. Like, I'm not telling you exactly what to do. I'm just giving you the tools so you can figure shit out yourself and really take it to the next level and do it your way.
It's so good. And we will make sure to link that in the show notes. For folks who want to find out more about working with you, who want to read your book, who want to just be in your world, what are the best ways for them to connect with you?
The best ways are to just type in my name, Josi Dumont. I think that's the easiest, because you can find me with my name on every platform. Instagram, I'm always in my DMs. LinkedIn as well. I do have a podcast as well, which is very simply called the Josi Dumont Podcast. So that's very easy to find on any platform. And obviously the book is available now also on Amazon, luckily. But there is a books to read link, which I will send you, that leads to many, many different platforms. You can also get it on Barnes and Nobles and stuff. So you can order the ebook or the print version. The audiobook will probably come out next year, depending on when I get around to do it, because I want to read it myself. But yeah. Oh, and if you want to work with me, you can just go to my website, josidumont.com, and find out about my coaching programs. I have one-on-one intensives, that's the coaching booster, or the one-on-one program where you can either decide on how many months you want to work with me, or we go with a fixed length like 3, 6, or 12 months.
Wonderful. All of that will be in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining us and telling us about your journey in leadership, in self-publishing. Thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me.